As a shaman, I'd like to take you on a journey.
Hello, and welcome to our presentation on French theater and neoclassicism, brought to you by Gerline, Nusra, Donald, Jose, and Brian. Today we'll be talking about French theater and neoclassicism.
My name is Lion Giga, meaning he sits or places together two bets. You can call me Joseph Brandt. I was born in the spring of 1742 in what today is Ohio, on the banks of the Muskogum River. I was a young Indian Mohawk, educated in English in a school in Lebanon, Connecticut, under the tutelage of a Dr. Eleazar Wheelock, the founder of Dartmouth College. I was soon teaching the Mohawk language to my colleagues, planning on working with the Indians. Later, I became an interpreter with Indian affairs. What can I tell you about my year? I think about the Hotel du Bourgeois, especially occasionally he would watch the Italian players perform farces and tragedies. They were known to bring the stagecraft of Commedia dell'arte to France, which of course originated in Italy. Of course, I was fighting for the French after that. But this all happened in the middle of the 16th century. Molière attended the Jesuit college de Chaumont, an influential school for the middle class and independently wealthy families. He was raised in a bourgeois middle-class society, studied law, but gave that up to join Madeleine Boucher and a group of actors to form a troupe called the Illustrious Theatre. So maybe that's why the British fought the French. They didn't like the theatre. Well, the Indians didn't like either of them, okay? So go into your Molière history. Bye-bye. I'm going to my people.
French theater began to develop in 1625 and onwards. Cardinal Richelieu aimed to reform theater. He drew inspiration from European countries, primarily Italy. The Renaissance came to France late due to the Civil War, and Cardinal Richelieu determined that theater would follow specific rules to conform to a French neoclassical model. Neoclassicism involves all art forms, literature, architecture, and theater. It adheres strictly to unifying times, actions, and places. French theater is associated with grandiosity, costumes, and scenery. Two genres of French theater are tragedy and comedy. These two genres were never combined. Here we can see some of the attire used by actors in the 16th century from 1600 to 1685. Some of the characteristics of French theater are the 5-act form, decorum, purpose of drama, and vermicelitude, which refers to the lack of supernatural entities in plays. So no Macbeth or no things like Hamlet. It was believed that the purpose of all drama is to teach and please. But what makes it French theater? Ugly stretches of religious wars led to finally having a strong French monarchy, which makes sense as to why they wanted unity and made French theater what it is. Some rules to follow when writing a play in neoclassical times are plays need to be written into 5 acts. It must have a positive ending where good is rewarded and evil is punished. Not obeying these rules could result in violence. The heroic tragedy. Stories about nobility, royals, and the elite. Royals and the elite dressed as you see here in very extravagant clothing, as opposed to the common folk, which you can see here, dress in a completely different attire. The comedy aspect refers to the plebs of society, where the royals and the elite are the higher ends of society. The key figure that we're highlighting is Jean-Baptiste, also known as Molière, who lived from 1622 to 1673 in Paris. He lived to be 51 years old. He was a playwright, poet, and actor, consisting of mostly comedic plays. One of Molière's works is The School of Wives, or in French, L'École des Femmes, where 2 men fight to gain the affection of the same woman. This is considered one of his finest achievements. It caused heavy controversy, but established him as a bold playwright. An interesting fact about Molière's death: during the last performance of his play, he was portraying a sick man sitting on a chair. Molière started coughing blood. Thinking that the blood was part of the act, the audience started to praise his performance. A man of the theater company realized this was not an act, dropped the curtain, and evacuated the actor. He was immediately taken home and would pass away several hours later. This is a photo of the chair that he was sitting in at the time. Hôtel de Bougenet first opened in 1528 by an amateur guild, Confrères de la Passion. Most of the audience stood in the pit, and galleries lines the side and the back walls. The total capacity of this building was 1,600 patrons. The Confrères was forbidden to perform religious plays when the theater first opened. In the 16th century, the theater was rented to traveling players, including Italian and English companies. The comedians were without rivals in 1634 when a second theater opened. Modern-day influences of neoclassicism are proscenium theaters. These are theaters where arches have frames and borders like a picture frame. This type of theater and stage is still popular today. An interesting fact is that they had candles for lighting, and some audience members would sit on the stage. The French really loved rules and unity. Before neoclassicism, there was a lot of war. Neoclassicism in France held the sway for more than a century. The second playwright we're highlighting is Pierre Corneille. He's one of the main 3 French artists of his time, author of French tragedy, and is known as the organizer of French misfortune. He is one of the best writers France had ever seen during the 17th century. He had an inborn interest in plays and thoughts of French misfortune. After his first play, he was honored and became a dramatist in others' minds. He was known to be the French tragedy playwright. During the 1630s, Pierre decided to change from comedy to tragedy. The main misfortune he composed was called Méry, which was released in 1635. 2 years later, he released a play called Les Cid. These two plays were similar, and there were a lot of criticism against Les Cid due to its blended classification. That's yet another reason why it was so popular. In conclusion, the French neoclassical theater has left its mark on the modern-day world, with its influences seen in proscenium-style theaters. If not for Renaissance and its impact on the French theater as a whole, political movements, reception to such events, and even the separation and unification of the barriers between real life and art would never have been manifested. That concludes our presentation on neoclassicism and French theater. Thank you for listening, and good day.